Daddy, Daddy, please don't kill me.
Hello Internet, welcome to Games Done Wrong. Games Done Wrong. Games Done.
This week is the Games Done Wrongish Halloween special. For this special we will be looking at my spotlight review of the October 2017 PlayStation Plus offering, the Amnesia Collection. Quiet down, we have a video to do. The first title in the collection is Amnesia: The Dark Descent. I did a quick overview of this title in my monthly PlayStation Plus video, which is linked in the comments below. In this video I will go over a few points again, as they will be relevant later on. As stated in my overview, in this game you play as Daniel, who has awoken in a medieval castle with amnesia. Believe it or not, in the Amnesia Collection this is a recurring theme. The Dark Descent has many intricate puzzles for you to solve. Each one helps you solve a larger puzzle in each area, which in turn will allow you to progress through the story and further areas. You have an inventory which allows you to store things such as a crowbar that may be used in a later puzzle or section of the game. You also need to manage your sanity. Staying in the dark or staring at the monsters for too long will eventually drive you insane. When this happens you will fall to the floor, hugging yourself in the fetal position for a short while until you muster the courage to stand up and carry on. This can be very dangerous when monsters are around, as you could be out in the open and exposed. Hiding or running from monsters while trying not to look at them is therefore the best course of action for the most part. You cannot defend against or attack monsters in any of the games in this collection, so if you get seen and caught, you will be defeated. In order to not go insane in the dark, you need to try and find light as quickly as you can. You do have an oil lamp to help in long dark corridors and hallways, however. This requires fuel, which depletes fairly quickly and will need to be refilled when possible. You also collect tinder boxes that allow you to light up torches on the walls around the castle to provide light while searching for clues or items to help solve the latest puzzle. Daniel can also be injured by monsters, falls or traps. There are tonics around the castle that you can drink to recover your health in these cases. While playing the game, I thought a number of these mechanics were a nuisance. I felt I was not given enough time to explore each area properly before having to move on to find light or escape a chasing monster. This made me feel that I may have missed some important information left in notes or messages that I did not find due to being ushered through the area too quickly. We will come back to this later, however, because as the series goes on, my opinions on this do change a little. The monsters did not scare me all that much. I felt they were just in the way most of the time, preventing me from quickly solving the puzzle I had just found the last clue or item for and wanted to get back to. Often they would appear while backtracking and generally just slow down your progress without offering any real threat. Whenever they did pose a real threat, I felt the game became a little confusing and did not really make it clear where the threat was coming from. You have all the usual horror tropes such as faster, louder music when being chased. This lets you know it's time to run. However, the direction the danger was coming from was not always obvious. For instance, when I approached this door, the music flared and I knew I had to escape. As it happened when approaching the door, I turned quickly and ran in the opposite direction. This turned out to be the wrong decision, and soon I was taken out by two monsters coming from the direction I was heading. When you are defeated, you will load back into the start of the area you were last in. So as I now knew the threat would be coming from behind me when I approached the door, I was ready to run straight through and not look back. Sadly, on the second attempt the chase did not happen. No loud fast music, no monsters, nothing. This happened a number of times in the game. I would get caught out unawares and be ready the next time, which never came. This took a lot of the suspense out of the game for me, as now knowing that if I get caught or defeated, I will just reload and be able to get further without any resistance the next time, making it almost worthwhile to get defeated to clear the area of any present and current danger. This is a shame, as I would have preferred a little trial and error in these situations instead of this, which kind of felt like I was cheesing the game after being defeated. Not so much a penalty, but more of a reward for being bad. I was not really that afraid at the start of the game. Around the 3 or 4 hour mark, I did start to feel on edge. I felt my heart racing in some parts. However, after realising that being caught and defeated did not really have any bad consequences, that faded again, and I was back to concentrating on the puzzles and story. The story is well written and was enjoyable overall, if not a little sadistic and creepy in parts. I just wish they could have kept up the suspense and horror. Once that had faded, I felt myself rushing through the rest of the game. What was that? Justine is the second title in the collection. This is not really a full game. It was initially released as a small expansion to the Dark Descent. This title, however, has a completely different theme and concept to the Dark Descent. Once again you wake up with amnesia. This time you start in a small cell in an underground dungeon known as Justine's Cabinet. Justine seems to be a very unhinged woman that uses her sexuality to lure unsuspecting men into her dungeon to play torturous games with. Very much like the Saw movies, which right now I guess is kind of cool with the new Saw movie Jigsaw releasing this Halloween. One of the loading screens states that Justine uses the cabinet to reveal her most suppressed desires. Let's just say that those desires are very much akin to the desires of King Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Your main aim throughout this short expansion is to find your way through the dungeon. Along the way you will encounter Justine's guests constrained to one of her torture experiments. It is down to you to try to figure out how to save them or allow them to perish. Whichever you do, you will be able to move on to the next area after doing so. Needless to say, saving them is much more difficult than not saving them. There is not a lot to this expansion. It can be completed very quickly once you know what to do. However, death in Justine is final. There are monsters around the dungeon that will kill you, and when they do, it is game over and you must start a new game. This allows for trial and error, which I felt was missing from the main game, as a new game ensures everything has been reset. Once you figure everything out, you can fly through the entire dungeon in under 15 minutes. It did take me around 2 hours to reach this point though, not down to my own misjudgment or inability to solve the puzzles. It was all because of this one switch. There is a knee-high water section in this title that also has a monster chasing you. As such, you need to quickly raise these metal doors, get through and close them again. This one just would not work for me most of the time, and I kept getting defeated over and over trying to flip the switch and open the door. Eventually I figured out that you had to stand in a very precise spot to open it. Standing too close to the switch or too far away would render the switch inoperable. This was a weird bug or glitch, as prior to this there are lots of other switches like this in the game that work no matter what your proximity to it is. Just like the Dark Descent, you can go insane and lose health in this title. However, once you figure things out, you can be through it with hardly a scratch. There are 3 different endings you can unlock, so in order to do so, you will need to run it a minimum of 3 times. Who is that? This title got me. Right from the offset I was chilled to the bone, so much so that I wanted to switch off the console and never come back to it again after the first 5 to 10 minutes. However, as I had scheduled a full review on this collection, I manned up and soldiered on. I think it is down to the children. Children's chants in horror movies or horror games, as the case may be, gives me the heebie-jeebies. Be it the twins in The Shining, the little girl in the TV in Poltergeist, or the children singing the nursery rhyme in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Kids in horror movies are just scary, okay? This game has a lot of kids chanting and beckoning you in the most haunting way. Once again you start the game waking up with amnesia. This time you are in a bed that seems to also be a small cage inside a mansion. You are this time playing as Mr. Mandus, the proprietor of a meat processing factory and plant. Your last memory is of your children, 2 small boys screaming "Daddy" as shown at the start of this video. As such, your main concern and task is finding your boys and working out how you ended up in this state, despite the back of your mind telling you that all you are going to find is their rotting corpses. Just like the previous games in this collection, you have no way to defend yourself or attack outright. Also, this game has stripped away most of the mechanics from the previous titles. There is no longer any inventory to hold and manage items. You do not descend into madness in the dark all while looking at monsters, and there is no way to recover your health if you get injured. In fact, there is no way of knowing anything about your health or state of mind. You do still carry around a lantern. This time, however, it is electronically powered and does not need to be fueled or run out of power. It does flicker on and off to let you know when the monsters are near. The monsters in this game are a kind of mutation of humans and pigs. As you own a meat processing plant, you're accustomed to being around a lot of dead pigs. However, as you progress through the game, you start to realise that the pigs have been used for something much more sinister than food. The general rules still apply here when confronted with these monsters. You must hide in the shadows, sneak past them, or run for your life depending on the situation. Thankfully though, in this game, if you do get caught out and defeated, when you load back into the area, everything is as it was the first time around. The monsters will still be there, and figuring out how to advance past them is still relevant. Throwing rocks or even teddy bears in the opposite direction to the way you need to go can alert the monsters and send them away from your main goal as they go to inspect the situation. The puzzles in this game are much simpler than the Dark Descent. There is not much backtracking or items to manage. Everything you need is usually very close by and easy to figure out. In the Dark Descent, I spent hours sometimes aimlessly walking around trying every combination of items, every switch and every possible interactable before figuring out what to do next. That did not happen at all in this game. It felt very linear and obvious throughout. The fact that you did not have an inventory meant that if you did need an item for a puzzle, it was not going to be far away, as you had to carry it out in front of you until you found where it went or what you needed to do with it. It was at this point that I started to miss the mechanics from the Dark Descent. Whilst I thought they were nothing more than a hindrance in that game, I started to notice their value when they were gone. This game felt a little flat and uninvolving without them. It certainly had me on edge from the start to finish, but it just did not feel right. It was missing something. The mechanics and intricate puzzles from the first game were completely absent, and that was a bit of a letdown, as having this much horror and trial and error options combined with those mechanics would have made this a much more memorable and enjoyable game. The game has some hidden Easter eggs that connect it with the first game in one way or another. However, it is very much its standalone title with its own intriguing story. Despite ramping up the horror element in this one, it felt far too easy and lacking in all other aspects except perhaps the story. Still worth a playthrough though in the dark with headphones on if you can stomach it. Overall, as a free game via the PlayStation Plus service, this absolutely has its value. Had the games been offered separately rather than in this package, I would rate each of them slightly above average for the different reasons mentioned, possibly a 6 out of 10 each for the main games. If the horror value of a machine for pigs had been combined with the puzzles and mechanics from the Dark Descent, I would be rating this at a 9 or possibly 10 out of 10. However, as it stands, getting 2 above average games and a worthy short expansion all in a single package for free via PlayStation Plus, Games Done Wrongish rates this collection at 8 out of 10. As a package, this collection provides hours of entertainment and in my mind deserves a great rating overall, especially as it is the Halloween season and people are generally more willing to give this type of genre a go at this time of year. I recommend giving it a try, if you dare. That wraps up the month of October 2017 for Games Done Wrongish. As the first of the month starts on a Wednesday next week, there will not be any overviews from me that week. This puts my whole schedule back 1 week, which in turn means that November 10th will have my first Games with Gold titles overview. November 17 will have my PlayStation Plus overview. November 24 will have my second Games with Gold overview, and the Friday after that is the 1st of December. This means I will not be able to do a spotlight next month, as the month will be over and the games will no longer be available via these services, so displaying them then will be pointless. As such, I hope you join me again next month for the overviews, and again on December 29th, 2017 for my end of year holiday special. Oh, and until then, stay alive. Ah! If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, then give it a thumbs down. But please try to leave some constructive feedback in the comments below this video so that I can try to make more enjoyable content for you in the future. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe by clicking on the icon in the middle of this screen. To learn more about the channel, you can click the What is Games Done Wrongish video on the left, or you can visit my website at www.gamesdonewrongish.com. Thank you. And until the next time, goodbye.